Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Hope you had a great weekend. And on to the beginning of the work. We got quite a bit to do today, so without any further dalliance, let's move into it. Last week, there was much talk about, shall we say, I don't know, how does one put it? Let's say the complaint. Yeah. The complaint coming out of Edo, I beg your pardon, the complaint coming out of Delta State. The complaint, of course, is that elder statesman and the Ijaw leader, Chief Edwin Clark, spoke to the press, let it be known that he has reported the former governor, in a manner of speaking, to the EFCC. He wants the former governor investigated, quite frankly, for graft, and humongous graft. The elder statesman was on our program last week. In fact, I think it was Friday. He was on our program last week, and he was so single-minded about his subject matter that he wouldn't let us go on to any other kind of subject. So if you want to talk about anything now, you're going to have to excuse me. But if it is on this whole matter about my people having been shortchanged by the former governor, Okowa, then let's talk about that. Otherwise, leave everything else out. Well, not unexpectedly, we've heard from the other side, the former commissioner for information, Mr. Charles Aniagu in Delta State. He was very quick to get back to us and say, how about my right of reply? Well, here we are. Good morning to you, Mr. Charles Aniagu.
Good morning, Ebon Yuri. It's nice to be here, and thanks for the opportunity to also take a look at the issues that our elder statesman raised.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so you heard it. In fact, you know it, because this is not the first time that you are actually reacting to the respected elder statesman. In fact, he came on our program after having gone to another station. So you know the matter well. He's very unhappy. He says Delta should be in a much, much better place if the governor had served faithfully. And he said he has gotten all sorts of documentary evidence from Abuja, and he has forwarded all of this to the EFCC. How say you, sir?
Well, thank you very much, Uncle Yuri, for these issues you have raised. Like you mentioned, I've had cause to appear on a sister station where I clearly made it known to Nigerians that we do not intend to withdraw the respect we have for the elder statesman for two reasons. One, because of the role he has played in our country in time past. And secondly, because 96 years is not a joke, like I said then. And I would thank God for the grace upon his life. And I also mentioned then that the issues are not original to him, which is why he progressed in error. And also seeing him appear before you in your station, it was quite clear that indeed that the pictures he has painted are very much at variance with the reality on ground in Delta. And it's quite understandable because for a very long time, he has not had a cause to visit Delta. And so those who are telling him the stories are telling him from a political point of view. But if you allow me just for a minute,
sure,
I would like to give you the genesis so that you understand how we are going to progress through Exodus and get to revelation of this matter. Okay. Because he has tried to put it in form of a gospel. The fact is that in Delta State, of course, you know, ahead of the 2023 general elections, there were contestations for power both at the national level and at the state level. But I will restrict my issues as per the genesis to what happened at the state level. At the state level, the elder statesman and some other persons had their own candidates. Of course, you cannot 100% say that he's a member of the PDP since Goodluck Jonathan left office. He has not been 100% a member. He decides whichever party he wants to support, which of course is his democratic right. And so he had a different candidate in mind. And for us in Delta, we subjected the issue of who becomes the next governor to the crucible of democratic processes. And in the course of that contestation, our present governor, in the person of Right Honorable Elder Sheriff Oborowori, won the primaries of the PDP. And at that time, the elder statesman belonged to a different camp. And having defeated them at the level of the primary, they decided, even if he had some form of affiliation with the PDP, to pitch tent with members of the APC. And so we progressed to the general elections. Deltans overwhelmingly across the 25 local government area, but specifically 21 out of the 25, voted overwhelmingly for Right Honorable Sheriff Oborowori on account of two reasons. One, because of the performance of Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, who is of the PDP, and two, because of the credibility that Oborowori himself enjoys, having presided over the affairs of the State House of Assembly for 6 years, and has shown indeed that he's also a man to be trusted and that he will not toy with the resources of the state. Now, these individuals, having lost this election, decided to begin to look for how to throw mud at Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, believing that he was very much instrumental to the very warm success received by the PDP. And that is the reason why they have progressed along this line. And let me place on record, on Kuyori, that in 2019, the elder statesman supported us overwhelmingly. And in the course of giving Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa that support ahead of the 2019 elections, he was very clear on the very laudable performance of Governor Okowa. He was quite specific on the amount of milestones we have recorded in the creeks and, of course, in the coastal communities where he is from. And if indeed in that 4 years, he was very, very clear on amount of successes we have recorded, and in the course of at least 2 out of the 4 years of our second tenure, he was very much with us, praising what we are doing. And whenever we go to Abuja, we also visit him. We have, of course, had cause to intervene in a number of, because being an elder statesman, once in a while, he will need assistance, which is not out of place. He cannot say that that assistance was not extended to him as an elder statesman and somebody who have also played his role in the state. So we believe he's qualified to be assisted, particularly in issue of health, having advanced to the very ripe age of 96, and we give God the glory for that age. But we believe that at a time like this, that the elder statesman should begin to advance discussions that will help the state to make progress, rather than telling stories that he's told by individuals who had a different intention.
Okay.
I'm quite convinced that if the stories were original to him, he would have told them differently.
Okay, let me just come in there, Charles. You
Yes,
said, you said quite delicately there that from time to time, the needful has been done. You use the word assistance. So I don't know, there's a sort of an insinuation in there that this behavior, given the quote-unquote assistance, which was routine, that had been done, nothing special, you sort of appear to be disappointed in the way it has come out. But let me also proceed from here. One question that he asked us when we spoke on a program. You remember?
We were not extending.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
He said, look, I'm an old man. What do I gain from lying? I am a lawyer of maybe half a century, so I know how to proceed on these matters. But I suppose one of the more compelling positions he took was that, guys, it's commonly known. I'm a 96-year-old. I'm not interested in any of this. But my beloved people, who would have been better off had former Governor Okowa served us well. And then he proceeded to show where, when I say show, he proceeded to allege that so many things were done for the personal benefit of Governor Okowa. And in any case, as is very commonly known, former Governor Okowa was the running mate of the PDP presidential candidate. He also gave indications that it was his firm belief that part of these monies were used to prosecute that whole election. Yes, Charles, go ahead now, please.
Now, let me first of all mention that when I talked about assistance being extended to him, it was not with a view to making him not to lose his voice. I said it is rightly so, because given his age and the fact that he has also played his role in time past, there was nothing out of place if government assists to preserve the life of somebody who is already above 90. It is very well deserved. I needed to mention for you to know that we have continued to for a very long time in our administration. We had a good relationship with him until these other individuals brought in stories that are politically painted, and unfortunately, he fell for that. He said he's 96 years old.
Yeah, but before, I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, Charles. I just wanted to say that, are you mindful of the fact that the elder statesman possibly could take offense at this whole matter of assistance, because he seems to be a man of means himself, not needing any material assistance, so to speak?
I can bet that he will not take offense. There is nothing wrong if a government assists elders. There's nothing wrong with it, even outside the shores of this country. Okay. Government assists elders because after the father has fed the child, you expect that as the child grows up, he should also be able to take care of the father. It's not a bribe. Okay. There's nothing wrong with it. In short, it will even be out of place if government doesn't assist those who have gotten to that age when we know that it's not expected to go to the farm anymore. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with it. I mentioned it for you to know that in time past, we have continued to enjoy a very wonderful relationship with our elder statesman. We continue to respect him. But now coming back to the issues you raised as to whether he said at 96 he doesn't have to gain anything from lying. I didn't say he's lying. I only said that the issues he's painting are very much at variance with reality. And to give you an example of that, in watching the interview with you, he said we amended the Super Deck law to accommodate the car ethnic nationality, even when in his own thinking, a car ethnic nationality does not produce oil. I will give you the responsibility, if you permit me, to go and investigate OML 147, Oil Mining License 147. That OML 147 is situated in a place called Obiaima in Owaledema. That Obiaima is in Eka Federal Constituency. And indeed, when you create an agency for the purpose of taking care of oil-producing communities, because we are not the one who deposited the oil, you cannot now lock it up to say that that is the only place where you can find oil. As we speak today, the Benue Trough is still being exploited for the purpose of seeing whether Nigeria can discover oil in that particular region. You recall the other day, Anambra, Kogi, they were rejoicing that there are likelihood that oil could be found. The moment oil is found in such a place, be rest assured that they will be accommodated. You also recall in 2001 when Obasanjo came and there was the need to create the NDDC, there were arguments as to the difference between South-South states, the oil-producing states, and the issue of the Niger Delta. And at that time, individuals claimed that the Niger Delta was just made up of 6 states. But there were very, very logical arguments that made it clear that the Niger Delta is made up of 9 different states, which is why today you have 9 states accommodated in the Niger Delta Development Commission. And so at the time the Super Deck law was being passed, there was some form of exploration. And in the course of time, it was discovered and at a, commercial quantity. Pan Ocean is an oil industry, it's an oil company that you know in Nigeria today. They are the one in charge of OML 147. And so if you check it, OML 147, it will tell you where the location is. It will also tell you that Pan Ocean is the one drilling from that particular oil field. And so that being the case, I'll leave it to you whether indeed the elder statesman was telling the truth when he said that the law was amended to accommodate an ethnic nationality. We will want to state that the elder statesman has led a good life. He has in the past been somebody who has contributed to national discourse. We do not want individuals to begin to lead him in a direction that does not suggest that he's telling stories that are indeed in tandem with reality. Because the issues he has painted, you recall also when you try to ask him, refer him to the Premium Trust Bank, he tried to move away from it because he has now come to realize that in trying to claim that the bank belongs to Governor Okowa, that obviously he progressed in error. And so we want to plead with him that as being our father, let him know that he has a responsibility to guide all of us. And secondly, to let you know that we never sent anybody to beg him because he was claiming that they were sending people to him. Nobody sent anybody to him.
Because I was going to ask,
reminding him that it is good to guide all of us aright.
I was going to ask that when these rumblings were heard, as respected as you have indicated that he is, I was going to ask if there was not any effort to sort of approach him and explain these things to him.
Well, that is not going to be out of place, but you know, when you are passing a particular farm road and you come across 2 trees on top of each other, blocking your way, the first thing to do is to remove the one on top, because if you don't remove the one on top, you are not likely going to be able to have access to the one below so that you cannot have your way to where the destination. And so what is on top now is for us to let Nigerians know that the stories that the elder statesmen have told are not original to him, and I insist. And I have given you reasons to prove that they are not original to him. He was talking about the Super Deck law, and of course, what we have also done with the Super Deck. The Deltans will indeed tell you that the Super Deck have become much more responsive in the last 8 years of the Okowa administration than they have ever been. because the amendment we brought to bear, the first amendment we brought to bear, was for the purpose of improving the governance structure of the SOPADEC. We looked at the NDDC, and we believe that the issue of having executive directors who have got jobs to do when they come to work is much more important, rather than creating avenue for boardroom politics where individuals representing different ethnic groups could converge at the headquarters of the SOPADEC only for the purpose of redistributing resources without having to indeed translate such resources to the very, very crucial needs of development in these oil-bearing communities. And we are grateful to God that Governor Okowa was able to engineer that particular amendment to the extent that today, the SOPADEC has been able to even tar roads. They have been able to build what you call jetties. They have been able to link up communities. There's a community called Otonila. If you go to Otonila, then linking up to Ogedimigu, you will see that the SOPADEC was able to build a bridge to link up these two communities. And many other projects, including school, including what we call the modern grammar school that were built in Burutu, which is the local government of the elder statesman. I told Nigerians in the course of my appearance in your sister station that the elder statesman is from a place called Kiabudu. In Kiabudu, we are building a technical college that could pass for a university. And the elder statesman, if indeed he knows that at his age, that the truth is very, very sacrosanct, we tell you that Okowa has visited the creeks much more than any leader in Delta State. Okay. We have been to almost all oil developing, producing communities. We are building a road called Transwari Bridge, Road, made up of 19 bridges and roads in the creeks and in the heart of the ocean. Charles, the elder statesman is much aware of it.
Let me take you back to that reference that you made to, I think technical college, but education. The other thing that Chief Clark, was pained by was that of the public university, the Delta State-owned university, suffered at the expense of the former governor's own university, which he developed, at a cost with what existed before. So in other words, he was robbing Peter to pay his particular Paul. That was the allegation as put across by Chief Edwin Clark.
Uncle Yuri, that is also another issue that is very, very far from the reality. Since we came, we have been able, on account of our intervention in the Delta State University, Abraka, increase the number of courses because we have been able to bring in infrastructure that gave rise to accreditation for a number of courses. The first intervention we had was to ensure that the law faculty, which is in Ole, in Isoko South local government area, we built the moot court. We ensured that that particular university has a much more functional facility for the purpose of extending a law degree to our children who have had the privilege of gaining admission to that university. We advanced the course of building the engineering faculty, which is also in Ole. And then we progressed to Ohara, where you have the School of Medicine for that particular university. And we also advanced the course of expanded the teaching hospital in Ohara. He is very much aware of it. But beyond doing that, we also progressed to the permanent site because they were initially occupying a temporary site. We advanced the course of facilities in that school, including halls, including hostels, including the Senate building. All this we did, and the people of that institution were very, very thankful to the administration of Okowa that we did that. But what led to us establishing 3 other universities across the length and breadth of our state is that in the course of time, because we are a state that loves education so much, we discovered that most of our children were not having access to university education because, of course, the carrying capacity of the university, of the Delta State University Abraka, is actually limited. In a particular year, if you permit me, about 22,000 of our children were qualified as a way of who chose that institution as first choice. But only about 4,800 were admitted, leaving as much as over 17,000 having to seek admission either into schools that are of less quality or going to private schools where their parents have to pay through their nose. And we felt that that wasn't good enough. And so we had other schools. One, we had the College of Education Abo, which is in Ika South, not in Ika Northeast, that was very busy carrying out remedial courses, using our PhD holders in that school that we pay salary to advance the what's it called, institution in other states where they were having these remedial courses, teaching university students and awarding degrees. We had the Polytechnic in Ozora, which was big enough to be a university. We had also another arm of the University of the Delta State University, Abraka, in Asaba, which was called the Anwai campus. And we felt that we had got what it takes, just additional infrastructure, to be able to ensure that we now have more schools. And in one fell swoop, Governor Okowa established 3 new universities while ensuring that the Delta State University, Abraka, was also very well funded. And you need to put a cap on this particular line of argument. Ask the elder statesman, why was it possible that in Delta, the 4 universities and indeed all the other higher institutions were in session for the 8 months that other universities and higher institutions in Nigeria were on strike? We did not do it because we consulted a native doctor and then used his charm to ask the teachers and the students to remain in school. What we did was that we had provided long ago those things they were asking the federal government to provide. We had also gone ahead to ensure that we provided the necessary infrastructure in all these universities. So it was not a question of robbing anybody to pay anybody. We were on course, and very quickly, he mentioned that we are building the Faculty of Medicine for the University of Delta, Abo, in the governor's community. That is not true. If you come to Delta, I will invite you to come. We will show you where we're establishing the College of Medicine for that particular university. It's at the heart of Abo, just by the College Junction, very, very close to the permanent site of that particular university. All this we have done, and we thought that the elder statesman should have joined other well-meaning Deltans to appreciate the administration of Okowa while looking forward to the new administration led by Sheriff Oborowori to do more and advance development in Delta. Okay. And so we plead with the elder statesman to come home and visit, and let us also show him, because it's possible that he has not had the strength of coming around, and as such, individuals may be telling him stories that are completely at variance with the reality on ground. We are very proud of what we did in our 8 years of administration, and we are very much willing to give account of that anytime, any day, even as we invite anybody to come and see what we're able to do in the course of our 8 years.
Okay, Charles. Let me bring in our first caller. Good morning, Mr. George.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Okay,
and good morning to your guest.
Yes.
Uncle Yori, I watched that edition where the elder statesman appeared on YouTube. And the first thing that came to my mind was, Governor Okowa was there for 8 years. Why didn't the elder statesman complain about his non-performance for 8 years until he had left the office? That tells me something personally. And I'm aware that the elder statesman was supporting Peter Obi during the elections. And during those periods, his utterances did not refer to the non-performance of Governor Okowa. But that as it may be, Uncle Yori, let us leave the characters and address the facts. There are some things the elder statesman mentioned. For number one, he said there was no development in Warri, that Warri was even supposed to be the capital of the state, yet the governor did not do much or did not do something in Warri. There is also this issue of refund from the federal government to oil-producing states. Governor Wike of the Rivers State disclosed to the public how much the Buhari government gave to Rivers State. And he disclosed that the money that was given to Delta State is bigger than that given to Rivers State.
Okay. Mr. George, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. George. I really beg your pardon for it. But I'm going to have to, leave it there so that he can respond to that. You heard, Charles.
Yes, heard. I heard. Yes. Let me appreciate Mr. George for being able to point out as to why we got the support of the elder statesman in the course of our administration, and now that we have left office, he seems to be singing a different tune. Now, to respond to the 2 issues he raised. On the issue of the last one, which was the issue of the declaration by the governor of Rivers, I have answered that very, very sensibly in the sister station, but I want to, for the purpose of repetition, say that what the federal government was owing us is 240 billion. And the federal government was also owing all the other oil-producing states, and that is on account of shortfall due to 13%, because in the course of time, the federal government was not remitting all they needed to remit over the years. And so when the computation was done, we were to receive 240 billion. And the federal government, just like what they told the other states, so the whole thing is over almost about 1 trillion, said they were not in a position to dole out these funds at once, and that they were going to give back these funds for a period of 5 years. And that was just at the end of last year, at the end of 2022. And so if you say you are going to give back money for 5 years, how possible was it that you now give the money in less than 4 months? What Governor Wike of Rivers did was that as soon as that arrangement was concluded, he took the certificate stating that that fund was being owed and then approached Access Bank. And unilaterally, without even proceeding through the State Executive Council and going to the State House of Assembly, discounted 30% of that money and asked the bank, just give me 70% of this money, then you can take the rest. That was how he took his money. Okay. But in our own in Delta, Governor Okowa, being a legislator, said, no, that's not the right thing to do. And that secondly, since this money was to come for 5 years, that it will also be to the benefit of the next administration. And there was the need for us to also allow the next administration to have benefits of this fund for the purpose of governance and building infrastructure, which is why we approached the bank for the purpose of a discount loan, and we made it very, very public. We have explained that, and the other statesmen know that the federal government that was borrowing money almost every quarter wouldn't have been in a position to give you 240.
Okay, so sorry about that. Meanwhile, I believe that I have another person on the line. Is it David? Good morning, David, calling in from Abuja. David in Abuja, good morning to you, sir.
Hello, good morning.
Okay, please go ahead quickly now.
Yes. I just want to advise the man, being a father of that Delta state. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, being a father, I don't think all this is necessary for now, because I believe he did much support like Governor Okowa when he was coming to power. And he has finished 8 years, and he's coming to, he's kind of accusing and all that. There's no how they will address this issue. There will not be an insulting word to an other state. It should be a peacemaker in that state.
All right.
When I come there, he's the father to all. So, if you can check, he's very close to, the Almighty God will give him a ticket. So he should leave legacy behind.
All right.
Leave legacy behind who are coming behind him. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for calling in. Charles, I'm afraid we've run out of time. We wish we had more time for this, but one of the responses of Chief Edwin Clark at the time that an explanation was given to him, he claimed that, among other things, he was told that pensions or something like that had been paid, and his question was, how does pensions come into all of this? Would you like to, quickly touch on that?
Well, very quickly. The governance of a state and the issue of coming up with a budget is about intentions as to what you want to do to add to the value of life of the people. You do know that Section 14, subsection 2, paragraph B of the 1999 Constitution makes it very, very clearly that the security and the welfare of the people is the primary purpose of government. And if you were to pay pension to individuals, that is one of the primary purposes of government. And so in the course of time, we saw that the local government were not able to meet up with their pension liabilities. And as a state, as soon as we were able to assess part of this reform, we felt that there was the need to extend some grant. And for the records, that was not the only money we had cost to extend to the local government in the course of our 8 years administration. We did that because we believe that these local government workers, even if they were not employees of the state government, are debtors who also need to be able to live life and live it abundantly. We wish that we had more money, we will give them more. And these individuals cut across both oil-producing and non-oil producing states. The reason why we are disturbed about the dichotomy that the elder statesmen and many others are trying to create with respect to the super deck and government is that they must first of all realize that it is the governor who goes out to explain what he wants to do to the people through his manifesto. He's the one who appoints the super deck MD and not the other way around. Are they expecting that the super deck will be the one to be telling the governor how the creeks will be developed? And every year, too, we come up with the appropriation law. The appropriation law clearly specifies how you are going to spend the funds of the state when it comes in. And the appropriation law, just like the super deck law, is also a law. And the governor have tried as much as possible to stay within the confines of the dictates of the appropriation law as passed by the House of Assembly, well constituted, having 29 members, cutting across 29 state constituencies in the state. And so, Yori, my brother, we want to plead again with the elder statesman that we will continue to respect him because we see him as a father, and we urge him to continue to see us as his children, even if, assuming without conceding, that we progressed in error. It was his place, having enjoyed the grace of God to have gotten to the age of 96, to guide us with his wisdom and not to pull us down even in areas where we have done so well. And so that's why we're urging him to not allow these political persons to continue to tell him stories that advance their own cause and not the cause of the state.
Okay, thank you very much, Charles, for making the time for us to, as it were, exercise your right of response. That is on behalf of your principal, former Governor Dr. Senator Okowa. Thank you very much, Charles. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.